Sorry to turn it down. It's usually the last thing you see before we take it.
No, don't put them right out. Just,
A little to the right or a little to the left? I know I'm going to be walking through it a couple times. I don't really stay still very much.
It's good.
Okay, we're live.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Got it? Good?
Okay.
Sir?
Good afternoon. Robert Perella. This is the Conscious Life Expo, and you're in Los Angeles, California. The Conscious Life Expo is the preeminent expo featuring holistic health, spirituality, metaphysics, personal growth, and today some wonderful news about children. I'm talking about William Stierle.
Yeah.
Give him a big hand.
Thank you.
William is an expert in children. Our children are really the foundation for which we all, live in the world with, and we have all been at one time. He looks at trauma, abuse, codependency, what children offer us, and how we can help them. More importantly, he is about this, we talk about conscious parenting, being conscious with them to raise the most important aspect of our lives, which is our children. Please welcome the very wonderful William Stierle. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Today, I want to start today off by that this event today was going to be done with Lisa Garr, and Lisa and I were going to work a little bit together today, but Lisa's not here. And there's a couple reasons why, and I thought I'd let you know right away. And many of you came across and saw the picketers out in the front. And we, Lisa and I have been working really pretty hard over the last 2 weeks to create a conscious dialogue between the picketers and the people of this event with Robert, and also to try to find out a little bit more of what their needs are, and to bridge the communication. And I've facilitated 2 mediations throughout this last 2 weeks between members of the union and the workers here and Robert, the producer of the event. And it is one of the small pieces of information I've received that, just to let everybody know, to bring consciousness and awareness, is that the need for fairness isn't necessarily met at this hotel between the management and the ownership and the workers. And we're going to talk about that. Today we're going to talk about conscious parenting. And I'm going to really direct most of my language into how to communicate differently between people. There has been, basically over the last years, a shift away from thinking children the same as people or as human beings. There's been a hierarchical discussion between this is a child, this is a parent, and therefore this child doesn't know stuff, and this parent does. Therefore, there is a disconnection between the child and the parent due to the child labor laws in the 1800s. So what happens is that we have all been dealt a challenge, and it's a communication challenge as well as a belief challenge. And one of the things I'm going to do for you today is provide you support and information and tools to rearrange your beliefs a little bit so that your parenting experience and your parentings will go much easier. But wait a minute. If children are the same as adults, if they're both human beings on different time frames, because that's really what we are, they're a smaller version of a human being and we're an older version of a human being. If they're the same, then the tools that I'm going to teach you today will actually be able to apply to everybody in your life. Even though I'm going to focus on parenting, you're going to notice that these tools work pretty much with everybody that shows up. Okay? So far, so good? Now, what I'm going to do is start with a question. Okay? Would anybody be willing, or if you would be willing to think about this question or even offer it up as something to be supportive? If there was something that I could say or do that would really help in communication between you and your child, or between you and another person, something that you could learn today about people that would really help about why they thought a certain way, why did they behave a certain way. If there was something that would really make a difference for you, what would that be? What would come up with you? If there was something that I could say or do that would really make a big difference. Yes?
About power struggle?
Yes.
Sort of alleviate that.
How to alleviate power struggles. You got it. I am going to have a question. I'm going to have a slide up here specifically, and if you have some paper to write stuff down, I'm going to say some stuff that is really going to be helpful, like when you leave here. Okay? You'll be able to go into a power struggle, the concept called power struggle, and be able to weave through that much easier and to get off the struggle quickly. All right. Anybody else have something? It would really make a difference. Yes?
I think with my son, honestly, he just does some things that are just weird.
Right. And you want some greater understanding about these strange things that he's doing.
And I know he's not the only one, and I know these little kids. I look at his little class and I see the
Right.
and I'm just like, what do I do with this weird
Weird
stuff?
stuff. How old is?
5.
5. Great. So you and I are on the same page. I have a 5-year-old boy at home, so I'm very clear about this weird stuff. His birthday is December 18th.
The babies that came in September 11 here, they're a little bumpy.
There can be, but there are some things that I'm going to be able to share with you that are going to be able to weave through that. There are some challenges with that specific year due to all the energy that was showing up there. But I'll show you how to shift that stuff a little bit. Okay? So thank you for that. Anybody else? We got a bumpy kid. We got a power struggle thing. Okay. What would be... No, join us. Thank you. Welcome. What was something else that would really make a difference? Something, maybe even a conflict or something that you think, gosh, if I just need to know, why the heck did that... Yes?
I have an issue. I have a child, and she is a lot like my wife.
Aha.
So that when I'm trying to correct my child, it seems my wife so understands this behavior that I feel I'm up against too. But it's not functional behavior, so it's like not, if I just stood back, it wouldn't work. They're feeding off each other.
It's kind of amazing how that works. They start feeding off each other's energy a little bit, and it's almost like they're both working through the same template or the same belief template or same behavioral template. And we're going to talk about behavioral and belief templates today a little bit and how to shift those things a little bit through language.
But I'm
Yep.
torn between the orphanage and divorce court.
Yeah, I know. That's the tough part about it, is that how do you deal with the level of conflict inside them and still keep your own, sanity and groundedness in there. And the 2 tools that we're going to be going over today specifically will help with that. You're going to get a wider scope of understanding about where they're coming from and what to say next. See, things don't work so well unless you know what to do next. Right? Do you notice that? We could come here and try to get consciousness, but, what do we do next? Like, what do we do when we leave here? So I'm going to give you some handouts and things to do so that you have something when you leave here. You'll have something, a different way to do it, and some resources that you can go purchase some stuff on your own, some audio stuff, or I got some stuff with me. If you want to get that, that's okay. You find it. You're on a journey. You showed up here. So I'm going to give you a bunch of stuff from the last 17 years of studying 3 questions. You ready? Here are the 3 questions. If my projector works. Great. Perfect. I'm going to have to do this manually. Sure hope not. Let's try it now. Wow, it's not working. Simple gun. Okay, fine. I'll just tap it then. Okay, questions. Welcome to Bill Stierle's life as a mediator, corporate consultant, trainer of parents, trainer of teachers, trainer of state governments, city governments. Here's what I'm going to hand you for the last 17 years or so of my life. You ready? There are 3 fundamental questions to get awareness of human beings. Three fundamental questions. Each of us have a different thinking style here in the room. Today, I'm going to give you a tool and some clarity and some handouts about those different thinking styles. Okay? That's called the first level of conflict. The second level of conflict comes in through a thing called people's behaviors. Why does somebody do something? Or why does somebody doesn't do? Why do they take an action or not take an action? Why do I take an action or not take an action? And how do I be alive while I'm doing those things? Taking an action, not taking an action. Do I know why I'm not taking an action? Do I know why I'm taking an action? Today, you're going to get that tool to help you with that question. Okay? Number 3, we are going to skirt through number 3, which is beliefs. There are certain thinking here up in our noggin that are affecting us and causing our emotions to generate. There are certain thoughts that push our buttons that cause us to have feelings. Today we're going to get a snapshot of that, and you might have some certain beliefs that we run across, and I'll point those out and I'll have you write them down, and I'll have you write down what to do about them, and it'll introduce that next component, which is there's a thinking component of human beings, there's a behavior component based on our needs, and there's a belief component based on these coded thoughts. So that's a little bit about between your wife and your daughter. Both of them are coming in with some coded thoughts, or your wife has a certain belief about something, and your daughter has similar thinking possibly, and she's just taking the same belief. You go like, oh my gosh, it's the same behavior. What am I going to do between these things? So you're caught between those two things, and you're wondering, how can I get this behavior to change when I'm struggling between their thinking styles and their beliefs that they're running back and forth between those. And today we're going to, and you're going to, maybe you can help me out a little later, is I'll ask you some questions about things that they say and do in order to give you some gifts right away, okay, about what to say next. And watch what happens. Okay? So far so good? Okay, let's dive in a little bit. In parenting, you could get caught between two roles. In parenting, you could get caught between being the policeman, the authoritarian rule enforcer, or the fireman, the consoler, or the endless problem solvers. Show of hands, how many consolers, firemen in here? You're fixing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, got a handful of firemen. How about policemen? How many of you are patrolling and enforcing the rules? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Well done. Now, those are two models that are roles that I'm going to try to get you to put your fireman hat away, and I'm going to have you put your policeman hat away and pick up the nurturing hat down here. That's what we're going to do a little bit today, is choose a different quality of communication and a different quality of problem solving than endless problem solving. Okay? That you get your kid to solve their problems on their time as soon as possible. You see what I mean? Because otherwise, guess what? You're kind of stuck a little bit. Because if you come in and you tie their shoelace, that's great for that day or for that hour. But then you got to tie their shoelace again. So what we're trying to get them to do is tying their own emotional shoelace, tying their own behavioral shoelace, and get them to practice that so that you won't run into trouble in the teenage years or further on. You won't get into those troubles. So there are going to be 3 components here. There's going to be a policeman modality. Welcome. There's going to be a fireman modality, and there's going to be a parenting modality. And what we're going to try to do is try to move our group into this parenting mode. Make sense? Because if we stay more into this nurturing, accepting, and supporting about what's there, things will tend to go better in the long run. It might be a little tough in the short run, but in the long run, you get permanent change rather than temporary change. And I'm going to go into that slide here in a moment. Okay. What I'd like to do is introduce you to tool number 1. The human being has a brain. We have these different thinking styles. The brain is divided into these 4 quadrants. There's blood flow that moves between these different quadrants. Some of us are good thinkers in certain ways, in certain styles of thinking. And some of us don't think very good in some. Some of us can do accounting in here, and some of us can't do accounting in here. That's not something that's interesting to us. Some of us are great working with children. Some of us are not so good in working with children. What I'd like to introduce is one of my mentors who started working with the brain and started taking that out for a spin in corporate America. Now what happens as a manager for training at General Electric, in human resources, he kept noticing different types of people came in for different types of jobs. This guy's name is Ned Herman. If you want to look at that website, it is hbdi.com or Herman National if you want to do a search on it. Now, what Ned did was he kept using physiological experiments, EEG, PET scan, blood flow data to watch and try to track thinking. And what he did was, from an intuitive place, is he came up with a really good metaphorical model that we're going to work with today for about the first half of our talk. Because what we need to do is really bridge the gap between your thinking style and the world's thinking style. Now, there are other modalities out there. There are other thinking modalities, whether it's the Myers-Briggs survey, whether it's Kolbe concept, whether it is True Colors, and I know all these modalities. I use this one because it works easiest for me. And it's a little bit more the grandfather of those other models from my perspective. Okay, so when I go out and talk to a group of teachers and do a teacher training, what I do is I say, listen, your kids, students, are thinking a certain way, which is different than how you're thinking. And it might be good to know some of those things. All right? So what I'm going to do is take a survey. You ready? As I read through this model, what I'd like for you to do is I would like for you to pick 2 color groups that are most like you. Okay? In the blue quadrant, logical, analytical, fact-based, quantitative. In the green quadrant, organized, sequential, detailed. In the red quadrant, emotional, kinesthetic, that's body movement, feeling-based, interpersonal. In the yellow quadrant, synthesizing, the ability to put things together, integrating, the ability to be able to fold ideas, intuitive, the ability to reach out into that modality, and holistic, be able to see the big picture. If you were to pick 2 colors that you're most like, which 2 colors are you most like? Anybody want to share what you're most like intuitively? 2 colors, yes. What do you got? Okay, so you've got this blue thing that's going. I'm going to call that blue. It's washing out on the screen. And then red over here. So there's a part of you that thinks in this blue logical way, and then there's a part of you that thinks in this red kind of way. Okay? Anybody else? Yes?
Blue-green.
Blue and green. Okay? So you've got this blue thinking and then this green thing that's showing up. Yes? Yellow and red. So we got another thinking, yellow, and then there's the red. Okay? Yes? Blue and yellow, cross quadrant that way. All right? Yes? Yellow and green, cross quadrant. You know what? All of you folks are thinking in very different ways in here. I hope you're noticing that we got a whole mix of different thinkers in here. Now, for the folks, what happens is that this model, if we are to take this out for a spin worldwide, okay, here's how it breaks out statistically. You ready? 60% of the population is double dominant. 60%. So if you're yellow and red, or if you're green and blue, and you weight those way, that's called double dominant. In other words, you tend to do those 2 things and are less on those other 2 things. Make sense? All right. Same thing with blue and yellow. If you're blue and yellow, or if you're red and green. That's called double dominant. About 60% of the population is broken up that group. Approximately 30% of the population is triple dominant. They blend 3, but are distinctly lower on 1 quadrant. Okay? All right. That leaves us, yes?
How much did you say the second group?
30%. Approximately 30% are triple dominant. They're a balance of 3. Okay? All right. Now, that leaves us 2 groups. Single dominant, which is an individual that weights themselves in one direction and doesn't think in the other quadrant so much. And so single dominant makes up about 7% of the population. And let me give you some job titles that fit into single dominant thinking. Single dominant blue thinker would be like an engineer. Why? Because their job and their focus and their style of thinking is more in that modality. Opposite that, in the red quadrant, a single dominant thinker would be like a social worker. What do they do all day? They're talking with people and they're connecting interpersonally. So far, so good? A single dominant yellow would be like an artist. The ability to have the holistic concept. Picasso had that ability to see an image and put those eyeballs on the screen, on this palette the way he did. All right? Opposite that would be like a drill sergeant. That is, a person is thinking in an orderly and a structured way. The ability to think things sequentially. The ability to plan things detail-wise. Okay? So that's called single dominant. If we blend some of these different thinking styles, we can get other positions. Are you ready? If you take an artist and an engineer, and you put those 2 brains together, you get a research scientist. Many research scientists are double dominant yellow and blue. And what they do is they bounce back and forth between ideas and facts and information. If you take a social worker and you mix that person with a drill sergeant and you make that a double dominant, that's like a real estate agent. A real estate agent talks really nice to people, and at the end, they have you sign all this paperwork. Does that make sense? With all those details on it. Here's all the agreements that you're going into. So that's that thinking style. That's blending thinking styles together. Now, you might be asking the question, what does this have anything to do with parenting? Well, thinking style might be either in alignment with your kid or not in alignment with what your kid is. It's either in alignment with their thinking style or not in alignment with their thinking style. As you take a look at this next slide, see if your same 2 colors stay the same, or you might add a third, or you might change the order of your colors. Are you ready? The rational self in the pattern analyzes, quantifies, is logical, is critical, is realistic, likes numbers, knows about money, knows how things work. The safekeeping self, the green quadrant, takes preventative actions, establishes procedures, gets things done, is reliable, organized, is neat, timely, plans. The feeling self feels, talks a lot, is emotional, is expressive, is supportive, touches a lot, likes to teach, sensitive to others. The experimental self, curious, plays, likes surprises, breaks rules, impetuous, takes risks, speculates, imagines, and infers. Did your 2 colors stay the same? Show of hands. No. Did you? Yes, got one person there. Did you add a third color? How many people added the third color? Yes, added third color. Yes, so the third color. So you notice the triple dominance is starting to come in here into the room a little bit. And how many people have changed the order of things? Boy, they thought they were this way, and now they're this way a little more. Yes. What was yours? What did you change from and to?
That was blue-red. Now more yellow-red.
More yellow-red. Okay, now you might be noticing that you're sitting next to a partner that is blue and green. Have you noticed that already immediately? Okay, so all of a sudden that is called attraction of the opposites. Approximately 89% of first marriages are opposite dominances. She got the joke on the other side. That's right, first marriage. So what happens is that either people, come together and appreciate each other's differences. There's almost a natural attraction. There's almost a sense of mystery that shows up. It's like, how is that person thinking like that? And it's really great for like the first 6 months because they're both trying to reach towards each other and going like, wow, this is really neat. Boy, we can treat kind of, and then after 6 months it becomes, How are you thinking like that? I really don't know who you are over there. Okay? Now, it's whether or not those two partners are appreciating the differences or not, or they're going to move into the attentions of the opposite and engage the mystery, that's a little bit about what the dance is of relationships. All right. With our kids, we will be like them sometimes, and then they won't be like us very much. And that's a little bit about what we're trying to get to here a little bit. Okay? When I go out to corporate America and I do this with an executive team, what I do is I find out what their individual profiles are. And by doing that, I can then find out how much are they weighted in these 4 different directions. If we know what the weighting is, we can then appreciate the other difference, because here's what happens in a corporation. A corporation hires a character called a CEO. The CEO then has to manage 4 vice presidents. The CEOs, 85% of CEOs, this is getting a little spooky, you ready? 85% of CEOs are quadruple dominants. They're balanced between all 4s. Let me say that again, it's a little weird. 85% of CEOs are quadruple dominant. They balance those 4 characters. Why? The reason why they balance the 4 characters is because they've got to deal with 4 different vice presidents. The vice president of finance will be strong in blue. The vice president of operations will be strong in green. The vice president of human resources will be strong in red. And the vice president of research and development and marketing will be yellow. They will go into the polarities. And then the CEO will sit in the middle and try to manage those 4 different thinking styles. Yes, question?
I've been just like trying to get a grip on this, and mostly I've been read, but I've been finding bits and pieces of everything. Like, yeah, I'm like that, but I'm not like that. And within that group.
Yeah, and that's the best part about this, is that as I'm going to have a handout for you, and you're going to say, oh, okay, so I'm primarily this red thing, and then I bring this blue thing in, or I bring this green thing in next, and then I bring this yellow thing in next. Okay, and this is my pattern in which my thinking goes. This is the pattern in which my communication goes. Okay, now remember, at the start of my session, I started talking about the 3 major topics I was going to go into today. Topic number 1, thinking. Topic number 2, behavior. Topic number 3, beliefs. Right? I'm only working on number 1 right now. I'm not talking about behavior. I'm just about thinking. It seems like it works better for me and for the people that I support if I break those 3 things up into different components. Because then you won't get stuck having an argument with somebody in a different quadrant, because they're just different. It's a non-argument. It's like you're approaching it from this view and I'm approaching it from this view. It becomes a non-argument. Okay? And that's what we're moving to directly into. Let's drill down a little bit. There's more information coming about how to look at yourself differently, and as well as your do you have a child? How old? 11-year-old and 5-year-old. Okay, so I've got a 14-year-old also. So I've got a 14, I've got a 5, and I've got a 3-month-year-old. Okay, so I got a expansive kid, and I can seeing things start coming out of my kid, that I can start seeing them. And the idea is, how do I lead my kid into my strength, into their strength? How do I lead my kid into their strength and get out of the way? How do I put things in front of them in their natural thinking style so that they draw themselves into their life that way? Okay? Yes, question.
Will you be applying these things to parenting?
Absolutely.
When you were talking about CFO, what was it? CFO, was it finance operations, R&D, HR?
Yep. You're going to notice your kid is going to come out of that one of those modalities. And you're coming out of one of those modalities also. This model I like a lot because I can take a group of individuals and I can lay them on top of each other and I can get a really nice chart. Okay? And also I can drive this into a team analysis that actually shows what everybody's doing in an organization. But from a parenting standpoint, where the rubber meets the road is, how do you see what your strength is with your kid and then lead them into the strength? Don't worry about the weakness so much. Lead them into the strength. Work a little bit with the weakness. My daughter is doing math. She's not strong in blue. Blue's one of her last quadrants. I'm not going to beat her up to get into math and get everything right. What am I? It's wacky. I want her to be the best red, yellow that she can be. Because I'm already working against her blood flow and her natural thinking style, her brain thinking style. If I'm making it imperative that she be great at math, I am not on target. Okay? So this will reduce the arguments and challenges because you can actually start seeing how you're contributing to your kid a little bit differently thinking. All right? So take a look at these values next, okay? And you're going to notice that there's a certain sense of qualities and there's a certain set of strengths. Qualities roll into strengths. So if we have some logical, factual, rational qualities, they will roll into problem-solving, analytical, statistical strengths. Make sense? If somebody is strong and they have some qualities regarding being sequential and dominant and detailed, they will roll into planning, supervising strengths. Okay? If somebody's really gifted in music and spiritual and talkative, symbolic, using these modalities, they will roll into the ability to express, writing, teaching, training. And if somebody is strong in intuitive qualities, as well as being able to think simultaneously, have a lot of balls juggling, synthesizing, that will roll them into creative, strategic, innovative, causing change, the ability to conceptualize regarding planning, big picture thinking. So it rolls from the qualities of thinking that we have in practice to the strengths that we start manifesting. Then it moves into the words that we speak. Tools, hardware, key point, know the bottom line, self-discipline, take it apart, break it down, critical analysis is a blue thinking language. A green thinking language, established with habits. We've always done it this way. Law and order, by the book, play it safe. Sequence is a green thinking language. Red, teamwork, participatory, personal growth, connection, team development. Red, yellow, play with an idea, big picture, cutting edge, broad-based, concept, innovative is a yellow thinking strength. Now this is when the conflict shows up. You ready? Because the greens, the reds, the yellows can't understand what the blue is talking about. They think of them as other and slap a label on top of it. Does that make sense? So, number cruncher, power hungry, unemotional, calculating, uncaring, cold-fish nerd is a label because the person doesn't understand the thinking that's going on. It's foreign to them. They don't understand where the language is coming from. Picky, can't think for themselves, unimaginative, stick in the mud, grinds out the task. That is because the thinking style is so strong in the ability to do things sequentially that the other quadrants can't hear them. Bleeding heart, talk, touchy-feely, pushover, soft-touch, sappy, reckless, can't focus, unrealistic, off the wall, dreams a lot, undisciplined, head in the clouds. That sounds like a parent-teacher conference. Okay? That's exactly right. Is because the instructional system shifts. Do you know when it shifts? Between 6th grade and 7th grade. Whereas before 6th grade, the system is more red and yellow, and then without letting the kids know, the entire system shifts, and it goes green and blue, and it hangs the red yellows out, and not knowing what the heck happened. Do I have any ahas out there? What have you just discovered? Any insights or ahas up to this moment? What are you seeing coming forward? What are you noticing about this slide or where we're going so far? What are you noticing? Yeah, what'd you get?
Personally, there was a big change with him, his school, and he's yellow.
Yeah, you notice it, right? We're catching it right away. Well, I'll tell you what, this is like your day then, right? Right? Because you're starting to notice is that you just got to figure out how you leverage this young man's strength. That's all that happens next. You figure out how to leverage his strength, he'll be fine. He's got to survive the instructional system though. But that's okay, because guess what? You now know what the game is. The instructional system isn't very hard, isn't very difficult. It's a very simple system. Please teach your kids this sentence. The instructional system is only interested in one outcome. Get the right answer. It's not really interested in whether or not you're learning or not. It's interested in how well you can bring facts and information back. If you can communicate to your kids and let them know that that's the system, they'll play the game. Oh, this is the game called Get the Right Answer. I will most certainly get the right answer. Okay. Now, you might have been, what's your first name? Alec. Alec, let's have a little fun. You ready? Okay. In school, the style of test that they give you, what kind of test is that usually? Do they give you a lot of essays or multiple choice? What usually do you get in school? Both, right? And did you notice the multiple choice tests, right? They're designed a certain way. Have you noticed that they have a sentence going like this, and then you have to get one of the 4 answers right to the thing here? Here's how a yellow person thinks regarding this. The way a multiple choice test is designed is this. The idea is, you read this question, you look at these 4 answers, and you pick the best fact that hits this. That's not how a yellow mind thinks. A yellow mind will think of it this way. I have these 4 answers. I have this question. I wonder how I can make these 4 answers fit to this question. That's called synthesizing and integrative thinking. It's the ability to reach for a new approach or a new idea based on the information that's sitting there. That's what the strength is. So, what does that cost them on a test? Cost them time, cost them accuracy. Make sense? So, think about these different 4 quadrants, and what I'm going to do is we're going to start leveraging these things really quick. I'd like for you to redefine a belief at this moment. I'd like for you to redefine, I'd like you to redefine the belief regarding the word smartness. I would like for you, for all of us in this room, to make an agreement that we start thinking about smartness from 4 different positions. And things will tend to go better. Ready? Smartness. There's this thing called intellectual smartness, which has the ability to bring information, has very strong regarding short-term and short-term fact retention. Do you know that that only 33% of the attorneys that pass the bar can pass the bar 6 months out? That's called short-term memory, the ability to hold information. Only 33% can pass 6 months out. Now that's kind of a little wacky, huh? Because guess what? It's scary, actually. It's from the back of the room, scary. So what happens is that's called intellectual smartness. That's a very fine, strong kind of smartness. There's a second kind of smartness called organizational smartness. If your kid has that, and I'm going to test the room here, how many of you have a kid that was, I'm going to use a metaphor, that was born folding clothes? Almost was very neat and tidy and orderly coming in. Either you were that kid or you know a kid that was born like that. Raise your hands. Okay, usually in a group of 20, I'll get 4. So I'm a little less than 20, so I got 3 in the room. 1 there too, so we're up to 4. Now you're wondering, what the heck is that about? And the other parents in here are going like, how can I get a kid like that? Right? Because I can't get my kid to do that. Well, your kid is not that kind of natural thinker. You can coach them, you can train them, you can move it around, But the chances of them following that might not be a strength of theirs. They might drop the behavior because it doesn't fit them as much. Social smartness. We know kids like this. They want to connect. They want to have play dates. They want to have a bunch of friends over. Usually it has to do with groups of friends. Okay? Entrepreneurial smartness. The ability to see outside the box and go in and see a new way to approach things and to reach out there where no one's been and have some sense of vision about what that is. Entrepreneurial smartness. Did Bill Gates finish college? Anybody? Nope. He left after freshman year. Why? His yellow took his blue out of school. He saw the emerging market and he moved on and took an action. Did Michael Dell finish college? Everybody? Nope. His yellow talked to his green and he said, I can customize this technology through order and through structure. If anybody's been in Delft plants, you'll notice that everything is in the same spot. Everything is labeled. Everybody knows where something goes in the process. There is no waste anywhere. Completely neat, completely functional, completely systemized. Why? Because he's trying to drive customized computers. Okay, through technology. So that's his thinking style. Okay, so now we've taken thinking out for a spin. We might as well then move it out. A little bit of movement is that my request is for you to start thinking of the world as here is my world view. And realize that I am only picking a skew of that based on what my strength is. This is my skew, and my child's skew might be over here, and I'm not seeing this. This would be the difference between me and my mom, okay? I sat very strongly in yellow modality, and my mom's got this green thing that she does that's very, very strong, okay? She's got this green-red thing that she does, okay? And her and I didn't really do very good together because we're very opposite, and we never knew why, okay? So what we're looking for here is we're looking to augment what our skew is, but also broaden our perspective. If a kid says or does something, we see it's coming from a certain place, and we don't have to get stuck on it. We just go like, oh, wow, look at that gift. Look at what they just brought me. They just brought me, my son does this one. That's not the way to do this. And I'm thinking, I don't know how this kid came from me because that's the greenest thing I've ever seen. I mean, he's quoting me rules and order. I'm thinking like, I don't know where it must be, from my wife's side. It's not something that's familiar to me. It's not something that I would say. There's no coaching. It's inherently he's coming in and he's being in that position. He's already got the natural gift or the natural strength sitting there. So be ready for the skew. Now what happens now is that think of it as during tax time. Some of us wait for our taxes to be done on April 15th. I've now got a good bead on all the reds and yellows in the group. Okay? But I also know there's a group of people that finish their taxes very early. They get it done like, January, February. Those things are finished. I got a good bead on the greens and the blues in here now. Okay? There's no wrong or right. There's no good or bad. There are situational consequences for for both ways of doing it, though. Okay? So there's situational consequences for our. There's situational consequences. But let's see if we can leverage these situational consequences and get a better snapshot of this. So I'm going to hand a set of cards out. I'm going to hand it, and if you can pass these cards around the room. Take one, and you're going to get one of each color. Go ahead. Start around there. And we're going to let this circulate in the room. Okay. Coming across are going to be color cards. Just hand it across. And if you can just make sure the front row gets those as you're going through. Go. Now, on these color cards, you're going to notice that the information that I covered on the first two slides, the first two brain slides, are going to be there for you. Okay, look at the thinking processy side first. Would you be willing, I'm strapped in here, would you be willing to turn those lights up a little bit? Thank you. So you're going to have these color cards in front of you, and there's going to be 4 colors. And I'm going to ask you just generally, put these things in order, most like you to least like you. Put the thinking processes side up, and everything above the double line are words that I've read already. Everything above the double line are words that I've read already. So put those in alignment or in order briefly in a way that leans towards what your strength is. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the temperature in the room. You're going to have one of those cards that are going to be coming towards the top of the stack, and there's going to be one of those cards that are going to be going to the bottom of the stack. And then you might be torn between the 2 in the middle. Which one do I do in which order? Okay? Now, watch what happens in the room. Ready? Everybody look up. And now take your first color card and just hold it up in the room for a second. Okay, everybody look around for a second. You'll notice that we've got a mix. Does that make sense? We've got a little bit of mix that's what's going on here.
You've got a lot of yellow.
And there are some yellow, so there's a tilt in the room. Well, it is a Conscious Life Expo, right? Okay, so there is a little bit of a tilt going on. So good? All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do a walk-around activity. All right? So I'm going to have you take your color cards, and I'm going to have you stand into 4 different corners of the room. You ready? If you have the yellow card, you will be in your first position. Take your cards with you. You're going to be standing over there. If you have blue, please stand over in this corner of the room right over here, because we got a communication activity. Over there in the back by the exit sign, over by the phone, and there's phones everywhere, but over there. Green cards, please. And red, over there where all that equipment is over there. Okay. Absolutely. Any more greens? Yes. Take your greens. Yeah. Oh, these are my extra? Perfect. Oh, I ran out? Oh, that's funny. Really? I thought I had enough. The greens, is there any more greens? No, I guess not. Okay, fine. I'll take that. Okay, are you folks ready? Let's have a little fun. You blue first? That's you're figuring it out? Okay, well, you'll be able to change in a second here. So we'll be able to see you. Okay, now, all right. Now, everybody see where you are in the corner, right? Okay, we got our right brain folks over here, and we got our left brain folks over here. That's the way that's where brain research first started, was right brain, left brain. What we're going to do now is we're going to break it up into quarters. It's a lot easier, and it's a lot more effective. Watch this. There's certain communication style that's going to come out of the green quadrant that's going to be opposite of that's coming out of the yellow quadrant. Are you ready? We're going to watch that communication take place right now. All right? There's going to be, hello, welcome. We're doing an activity. Have a seat. I'll see if I can get you caught up. Whoops. Okay, you ready? All right, so I think we have one more person that came in the room. Do you have all your color cards? No. Okay. And we have another person that just joined us here, and they probably need a green, is my guess. All right. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. Oh, she's taken off. Okay. Oh, I feel disappointment. See that? Could have contributed. Okay, so, all right, you're ready. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do specifically, watch this. Okay, what I'd like for oh, by the way, you're in your initial tribe. Would you be starting in red first or blue first? Your strength, thinking strength. Do you go bottom line first? Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. Bottom line thinking first. Okay, now watch this. All right. I'm just trying to see where everybody is. Okay, great. Okay, this is called a tribe. This is a tribe. It's a group of common thinkers. You commonly start in this place. This is where you will start a phone call. All right? Here's how the phone call starts. Are you ready? Okay. Look below the double line. Everybody look below the double line on your card. Everybody look below the double line. Read through that briefly, and you'll notice that there's a bullet or 2 or 3 that are communication styles appreciate. Okay? So take a look at that. You will notice that there's a bullet, 1 or 2 or 3 bullets that you think, that is what I like to hear in communication. All right, now watch what happens. Are you ready? Okay. Somebody in the green card, would you be willing to read what your first bullet is underneath the word expects? What do you got?
Step-by-step unfolding of the topic.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Step-by-step unfolding of the topic. You ready? Across. An overview. Can everybody in the room see that a step-by-step unfolding of the topic has nothing to do with an overview in communication? They are two opposite styles of communication. Okay, read the second bullet. Written schedule action plan, right? Okay, somebody. A conceptual framework. Do those communication styles have anything to do with it? No, opposites. Don't worry, it doesn't get any better. You ready? Would somebody in the red quadrant be willing to share what the first bullet is? What do you got? Empathy and consideration of the needs. Somebody, what's the first bullet over here?
Brief, clear, and precise information.
Does brief, clear, and precise information have anything to do with empathy and consideration? No, they're opposite in their energy sets. Okay, now, in parenting, in kids, with children, as soon as you open your mouth, you got a 1 in 4 chance of whether or not your communication is being received. So it might take a couple runs. If the kids like you, if they have the same thinking style as you, it'll tend to go better. If it's not, it won't go so well. You'll have to stretch a little bit more. You have to engage parts that you're not really good at. Okay? Now, since you mentioned the school piece, if you have a teacher that's opposite you, if you have a green teacher, those are the ones that are going to give you the most trouble. Okay? Let me give you a couple examples of green teachers. History teachers, government, social studies, greens. That is one of their thinking strengths that come out of that preference. Your favorite classes were going to be ones that are going to be more conceptual. You might, hit on some kinds of sciences possibly, or some sports stuff, or art stuff, or anything that has to do with kinesthetics. Does that make sense? So there's other things that are going to lead you into the world, but it's going to be opposite of what these other folks are doing. Don't worry, you exactly know how to talk to them now. You just got to follow the card. Make sense? All right. We're now in the first position. You're all in your own tribes. What ahas or insights have you gotten about you or parenting or other people, human beings in the world? What have you gotten? Yes?
Assumptions that my children are like me are deadly to a good family's communication.
Boy, I'll tell you what, you've just made my day. You're right. As soon as you leave with an assumption that what you're thinking is what they're thinking, or what you know is what they're knowing, that is right out there on the dangerous quality. Okay? Miscommunication happens right away as soon as that assumption comes in. Okay? Anybody else? Ahas, yes?
Huge aha, because I'm even looking at past relationships where I judge them being wrong in their priorities. Because I'm so yellow red.
That's a good catch. Yep.
And feel like, I've got the right priorities. Who cares about statistics or the plan? The people are more important. The vision's more important. So I feel like they're wrong. I've made them wrong for
Right.
the way that they're not spiritual enough,
Exactly. And what I'd like for you to now, you're right on a big belief change right now. Think of them as allies to support something that they can't see, that you see ahead of them. They become allies because they'll take your vision and they'll take your people and they will get them to work more efficiently and more cost effective. They can make it happen. They can move it into the modality. It becomes something completely different. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes. What's your aha?
I noticed I spent a lot of time trying to convince them to come over to my side.
Right. That's exact. Well, yes, of course, my way of thinking is the best way of thinking, right? No, it's just one way of thinking. Okay? All right. Now, what we'll do as human beings is we'll start with our first color card. We'll start going and we'll start communicating. If things don't work so well, or as time passes by, we will then include our second color card. What I'd like everybody to do right now is walk to your second color card. Yellows, reds, greens, blues. So you're going to walk to your second color card, all right? Watch out for the wires. And this one here is blue. Red's in that corner. Oh, see I was wondering about how this worked. See, you guys are taking two pieces and putting them together. That's wonderful. That's wonderful to see. Yeah, right. That's wonderful. Yeah, I was wondering how that was going to go down because you two came in together. Okay, now this is called our second color card position. The red quadrant is over there. The blue, yellows are over here. Here is greens now. Okay. Oh, see, did you see what happened with your son? Did you see what happened? As soon as he comes down and tries to connect with you, you throw a plan at him, don't you? Wait a minute, everybody. I want everybody to catch that. Okay, I'm just tracing what's happened in the room. As soon as Alex comes down from yellow and he goes to red, his mom walks away from red and goes to green. So as soon as he comes down to try to connect with her, she walks away and puts a plan in place. And he's going like, huh? See how that works? All you got to do is watch. So she's trying to chase you a little bit. But what happens is you're walking away because that's your next thinking strength. Okay, just catch that a little bit. By the way, your partner just walked, right? Yeah, your partner's walking out opposite. So this is solving more than just parenting and this going. Right? You see how this is working, right? You got to catch this picture because this is important. All right? Okay. What else? What other ahas? What are you noticing? Yeah.
I noticed that my daughter, we swapped. We're both right on the right side, but we swapped.
Son of a gun. That's
My yellow's first and hers first is red.
son of a gun. Okay, so it's almost like if you think about this as 4 radio stations, things tend to go really good. Think of it as these are just different radio stations. And what happens if you're not on the right dial? What do you get? Static. So what happens is if you're not dialing in to what the other person's thinking style, or if static is in the room, just keep dialing. Is this a red thing? Is this a green thing? Is this a blue thing? Between you and your daughter, you got a lot of static because she doesn't see you as the kind of red that she is. Got it? And she doesn't see you, in other words, you're just passing. Your yellow and your red are just shifting. It's almost like you're out of phase a little bit in communication. Now, guess what? How old is she? Perfect. Oh, my gosh. Take these color cards, stick them in front of her, talk them through with her, have them put it in order, and then discuss your challenges. And then all of a sudden she go like, oh, my mom's not making me wrong. She's just yellow. See, we want to try to depersonalize this because none of us in this room would ever get in an argument about which job is more important, a social an engineer. We'll never get in that discussion. But why do we get in the discussion with the people that are closest to us about different thinkings that they're doing being wrong or right? But you see how the belief is not really in alignment with what really is alive there? Okay. All right. Now, here's what I'd like for you to do next. You ready? There are people in your group that have walked with you that went from yellow to red. Who are those people that went with you? Okay, that's called a tribe. When people walk together, that's a tribe. Somebody joined your tribe, but she wasn't there to begin with. Got it? How many of you came from blue? Just you only, right? Right? How many of you came from red over here? Just you. You came from yellow over here.
Yeah, but new mommy with the little baby, she and I flipped.
Right. That is wonderful to see. So those are two people that are similar, but you also there's an inherent shifting. In other words, you might be out of phase too between the two of you. Okay? Right. That's a really good catch. I think you only came from blue over here, right? Yeah. And how many came from red? This is the tribe. Yeah, you 3. Yeah. See the red giving them a nice hug there, putting them all together. Very nice. Yeah, that's the connection moment. Okay. And then you came from green from that side. All right. Now, what happens now if you look at this next communication style? If you look at this next communication style, guess what's showing up alive in the room? Is that you've just added your second color card. In other words, you've added another communication modality. And by adding this different communication modality, that'll be your second thing to use, maybe, if you're using this side or if you're using this side. Now, everybody now walk to your third color card and watch what happens next. Your third card. Blue's up here in this corner. Are you guys going to green together? You two?
I'm going,
You're great, yeah, we're great.
You're going to green? Yeah, green's on the corner over there. No, green's over there. Green. You're going to green? Yeah, you're both going together. It's funny. It's interesting. It's covering that. Okay, great. Oh, you haven't been in the same quadrant the whole time. You've been opposite the whole time. It's almost like the two of you are out of phase. Where's he? He's over here in blue and you're over. It drives you crazy, doesn't it? It's wacky, right? Okay. I'm glad we're solving this mystery because it's been a pain between the two of you for years. So it doesn't have to be that way anymore. Okay? There's a different shift. What time do you got, by the way? What time? 1:15? 1:10. Perfect. Okay, are you ready? This is called this. Wait a minute. Okay, so you guys, you two, were you? This is.
It's funny because I get in a group with two people. I was two up there, two down here. What? And I feel like alone.
That's right. That's right. In this particular population, in this particular section, you're walking differently than others are walking. That's a very funny sentence. That is a really, is she a guest at the whole life? Is she just a guest? You're really coming here. That's well, very, very funny. That's right. That's cute. All right. Now, what you're doing is, again, tribes. The two of you stayed together the whole way, right? The two of you stay together the whole way, right? Wait a minute, three of you. The three of you stay together the whole way, right? No.
We're officially married.
I didn't. So that's similar preference. So that would be an easy communication, right? Again, the two of you are friends, right? Best friends, you said? So it's almost like the two of you bring a different perspective at the start, and then you join together and implement down here in the quadrant. Do I catch that right? That's been your experience, yep. All right, wonderful. Wonderful to hear that. And, okay, you're walking your own pattern, right? You're also alone, and then you're coming to this quadrant all by yourself, kind of, huh? All right. So the three of you are not in a tribal place at all. Okay. Any of you stay together? The three of you stay together. Aha. Okay. So again, that's going to be easy communication. Friendships can be done by people walking the same pattern.
We joined.
You join together in the middle, right? Okay. There you go. Okay. Okay. Now, this is called your closing color card. It's not your fourth card. It's your closing one because it's your third card. Because we'll tend not to get to our fourth color card that often. We'll dip into it, but we won't tend to spend a lot of time there, statistically speaking. So Bill Stierle's goes like this. You ready? Bill Stierle starts an idea, develops a training and tries it out with people, develops a training notebook, that's my third color card, and then I see if there's a market available for what I've just designed. Is there a problem with that?
Yeah.
The problem is what? Can't sell the damn thing after I'm done with it. See how that works? I got an entire closet full of creative things that I started here. I designed the notebooks, I never got it out to market. See how that's a problem? Okay. So that's called a situational consequence for my thinking strength. A situational consequence for my thinking strength. So far, so good? All right. The idea is don't beat yourself up for what you're doing, but just know what your thinking strength is. If you will also notice, guess what? This is also your decision-making pattern. It's not just your communication pattern, but this is how you decide to do things. I'm going to do yours. You start yellow. You go over, do red. Oh, I'm sorry, red first, then yellow, then blue.
Actually, I'm yellow.
Yellow, red, blue. Excuse me.
I'm so close, yellow, red. Anyway.
You shift, but all of a sudden you somehow get to a bottom line here that shows up at the end. Have you noticed that when you when you hang up the phone, that if you're connecting with a red friend, they get a little bit bugged. You hang the phone up quick. Does this group, do you guys notice that you hang the phone up after you're done? Like, okay, bye, click. You just did that today? Now this is a little strange. This is called your closing color card. Today you just hung the phone up really briefly. That's because your mind was moving into blue and you got what you needed, the facts and you hung up and you closed. If there's a red on the other side, they'll go like, where'd the connection go? Okay? That's called a situational consequence. So just being aware of the different thinkings that people have is very beneficial. All right? Take your last color card and wave it in the air. Okay? This person is the one that caused you the most frustration. It could be the most difficulty to you. It also could be your partner. Ding, 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 ding. It just doesn't get much funnier than this, does it? It's just horrible. It's a little wacky, right? Okay. All right. I'm going to get everybody to take a break. Everybody have a seat now. And I'll get to closure on this one. You're catching it, huh? Good, good. Wonderful. Okay. Please, take these cards home and use them. Please, take these cards home and get a sense and move these things around. When you catch yourself doing something green or blue or red or yellow, or you see somebody that's doing something that's green or blue or red or yellow. Now see, you and I were talking a little bit out in the at the beginning, and you were talking about being a Jungian analyst and stuff. Carl Jung had a snapshot of this. Because if you think about all of his modalities, his four modalities are right in alignment with this. The thing that he didn't have is the physiological equipment to measure this. Now, intuitively, he got it. The Jungian analysis around these modalities are very, very strong. Okay? So it's coming from a real rooted human experience. And even mythic stories carry these four elements in them. So, you know, we know there's some really good depth, some really good strong depth psychology behind this. But this is a physiological experience that I'm trying to take you through so that you can get off of that it's personal and change that belief to this is not personal, this is just a preference. If you change the word personal to preference, things tend to go better.
We were talking earlier, like, should you go with your strength or work on your weakness? So if I'm a feeling guy, should I hire a thinker to do the thinking for me?
Yeah, that's what I tend to do. I tend to keep leveraging my strength. Now, it doesn't mean I don't touch into and learn about that world and stretch it and have friends that are strong thinkers. So because what happens is there's this really nice collaborative banter that the two of you can have from these two different perspectives. And that's wonderful friendship because there's some really nice tension to it.
But not for a marriage because you're foolish.
Well, the marriage is, and well, you can turn right behind you and you got a pair that's exactly opposite. They're exactly opposite. Hence the results, you know. Well, see, I didn't know that. Oh, geez, see. I didn't know I was going to solve that one, too, see. Jeez. Okay, so the two of you going forward, you now can engage in the appreciation of the differences. You don't have to get stuck on it. You go like, okay, he's doing this side, she's doing this side, and you don't have to get into that tussle at all. It just becomes preferences are just alive in this moment. You don't have to go down that path. And you don't have to get stuck. Yeah, you're sitting with something.
How early do you start seeing this in children?
Boy, I started seeing it in Aiden probably about 1.5. He started doing some stuff that was really green and really yellow. My son was, I came into the kitchen, he was a year and a half, and he was sitting on top of the refrigerator at a year and a half. That's yellow. Green kid won't get up there. Yellow kid, no problem. Yellow kid's looking for the overview. How do you get an overview as a 1.5-year-old? Climb to the highest place in the in the kitchen, and that's what he did. Okay, so you'll start seeing. Yeah, and if they do anything, and just give me a call, and I'll give you some clue too. Okay, you had something also you were mentioning. My number's on the bottom of that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Say, the Chinese have a symbol that means the same for the crisis and opportunity.
Right.
If better choices or decisions are made by covering all 4 bases or all 4 colors, could we take our diversity and turn that from a negative into a plus? As if you're red, we work together or something like that. If you're red and you're blue and you're
Perfect.
green and yellow,
You're doing it.
all 4 bases
Yes,
covered.
she's moving into application. You're moving right into application right now. That's exactly right. Because it's not a right or wrong or good or bad. It's like who's covering what. It becomes the new discussion. Just you're covering the bases. You're covering the 4 quadrants. Because if you're not, as a business, try to be a business and drop one of these 4 values. It's like it's a bumpy road. If you drop vision, you're out of business in 5 years. If you drop the finances, you're struggling from quarter to quarter to make growth. If you don't have good people on board and you don't have good loyalty, it starts bumping there. Just ask the union folks out there in the front. That's exactly what they're saying. Our need for fairness isn't being met. You're meeting your needs for financial security ahead of the need for fairness and stability, because we're getting paid anywhere between $6 and $8 an hour, and we've been here for 20 years. That's the truth, by the way. Okay? All right? I got the list. I got the 80 people, and I know where the issue is. Okay? The need for fairness isn't being met. The hotel is clearly putting their needs ahead of the need for stability for the employees. It's good, but they're trying to get their own needs for financial security met. Okay? And choice and respect and some other ones that are mixing in there. Okay. Oh, one more detail about these cards. If you turn the cards over, this is the number one gift I could have gave you as a parent. On the back of the cards, you will notice that it says learns by. Everybody see learns by? Can't get much better than this next sentence. Ready? Bring these cards to a parent-teacher conference and say, this is how my kid learns best. Now all of a sudden the teacher goes, huh? Yeah, this is how my kid learns best. His thinking strength is this first, and then he does this next. He doesn't do detail or he doesn't do fact and information. We really need to do something different there. We got to work on him. I just need extra support from you. Oh, I thought he was just wrong. I thought his head was just in the clouds. I thought he was just talking to his friends just for the heck of it. See, from a red card standpoint, in school they call talking to friends cheating. In business, they call it teamwork. See how that's silly? In school, they call it cheating, and in business, they call it teamwork. All right, look at the bottom of this card. It says frustrations. Everybody see frustrations? At the bottom of your, take a look at your first card. Look at the bottom, below the double line of your first card. You'll see frustrations. This is inherently how you will be pissed off with your kid. If this is your first color card, you will notice that this is the inherent tension that will show up. Because if your kid is doing something that might be pushing one of these buttons, the feeling of frustration that will come up immediately. And we're going to make friends with our emotions in a couple seconds here, as soon as I move into the second part of my work here. Okay?
I teach psychology at college.
Uh-huh.
Some of my students are frustrated by me because of the blue card.
Because of the blue card.
Not the details. Yeah, I'm more spontaneous.
That's right. You're more spontaneous. Your red is moving around. Your yellow is moving around a certain way, and you're moving those modalities.
Some students are that way. They're emotional too.
You know what I wanted to give you this gift too, is that statistically speaking, I forgot to mention why everybody was standing. Statistically speaking, men and women are exactly the same percentage-wise between being yellow men and yellow women and green men and green women. They're statistically the same. It's a little wacky. This is where we get, let me say that again. There's just as many yellow men as there are yellow women. There's just as many green men as there are green women. Okay? Now the change shows up here. Okay. Now, I'm going to fight a cultural belief here, but statistically, what do you think the percentage difference is between men and women on this side, between these two pieces? You know what? And that's what we've been taught, is they're like 70-30 thing. It's actually somewhere between, the swing is only 5 to 7% between men and women here. Men are about 5 to 7% over here, a little bit more men, and women are a little more here. And some of that is mostly culturally believed. That means there's a lot of men that are trapped down here in red land and can't get out, and so they got to come over here to come into blue land to get acceptance. Is that or come over there into green land to get acceptance? And there's women that are very strong blues, and they got to stretch over here into red land to get acceptance. Hillary Clinton has that problem. Here's Hillary Clinton. There's Hillary. It's not very hard to see Hillary from this new perspective. Hillary Clinton is very strong yellow and very strong blue. Bill is those three. Bill does red, yellow, red, green. That's Bill Clinton. His blue stinks. His red's very high. There's a story of Bill Clinton when he's sitting watching and with a glass of water. He'll have eye-to-eye contact, red. This is a red modality. And he'll take a drink of water and he'll look at you through the bottom of the glass as he's drinking and not break eye contact. That's spooky. That is red. That is a red modality. Okay? Absolutely. That's correct. If they do not have eye contact,
Frustration is for the red.
That's-
This is not us looking at a red and saying, oh,
that's exactly that. You're right. It's how a red experiences frustration. The card is, how does this yellow experience frustration? How does the red experience frustration? How does the green experience frustration? How does the blue experience frustration? You're just cracking up.
It's so strange. It's like, no offense to the red people, but I look at red person's frustrations.
Yeah.
I would avoid all of those things with that person because I'm like, oh no, I don't want to. No, I'm not getting involved with all the weird emotion. I'm not going to do that. No. So I would purposely do all of these when I see a red behavior.
And they're trying to connect with you, and you and you deliver things to back them off.
Every one of these, I would do the exact trigger just to piss them off.
Just to back them off so you don't have to do the emotional piece. I love it. I can appreciate that. Because it's not in your strength. It's not in your modality. It's not in your things. It's no man's land out there.
I do this, so I just avoid it at all costs and just save myself a headache.
Yeah, you can't get much better than that, huh? That's great. That's great. Okay. So I want to really let you know how much I appreciate what I've been going to, bringing this information regarding thinking. There is individual preferences are neither good or bad, right or wrong, but there are going to be situational consequences for these preferences. Situational consequences are we're not going to be able to see the world as fully as we thought we saw the world. That's it. Some of us are good at some things. That means we can't see other things. It's not a big deal. And your kid's going to come into the world and start skewing the world. They're going to start seeing things through these modalities. And they're going to experience the feeling called frustration that shows up. What you're going to do is you're going to provide balance to their frustration to at least let them know where their frustration is coming from. That it's not necessarily personal, it's preference-oriented. It's because you think differently. You're feeling frustrated. They're not doing it on purpose. You think differently. Okay? And that takes the pressure off. Making friends with the feeling of frustration is one of the most important things a human being can do. Let me say that one more time. Making friends with the feeling called frustration is the most important thing a human being can do. Here's the reason. Here are 2 brain cells. Here are some dendrites that are sticking off the brain cells. Here's the electrical current that goes across the brain cell as soon as you think. The brain cell will make a change when current increases. So if you have an 8th grader and he's learning math and fractions, he will say, or she will say, they'll start working on fractions. Fraction. Fractions are hard. I hate fractions. Got it? If they keep practicing fractions and you guide them through it, fractions. There'll be a burst. There'll be new dendritic growth when the frustration is there. They will then say in the next day or the next breath or the next week, fractions are easy. Well, they weren't yesterday. I had to like pull your teeth out to sit you down to do fractions. No, I got this. And you go, they got it. So, without frustration, there's not growth. Growth can't exist unless frustration takes place. What is the aha that is currently showing up in some of your brains right now? Growth can't take place. The status quo doesn't change anything, does it? No. Frustration's got to show up to get a change. We got to have picketers out in the front to get change, to get awareness. I don't like it that picketers are out in the front. I don't want them. I want them to go home. I did a couple mediations to try to get them to go home. It didn't work so well. I mean, I got some progress, but it's frustration. Go ahead.
So, this boyfriend of mine, and me and him, we argue a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say it's not good because arguing doesn't get you nowhere, but so basically you're saying us arguing can help our relationship grow?
Absolutely. You're going to be able to appreciate the differences of what's going on inside him. And he brings a different perspective, a different information, a different color card sequence. And you go like, that's mysterious. How do you do that? Oh yeah, juicing. Exactly. It's like, what is that other person bringing? What's that perspective coming? How can I stretch and learn from that? That's a different thinking. You 2 guys as friends do that same thing. He sits out in red land, you sit out in blue land, and you start bantering. Bang, 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 and all of a sudden, wham! You land in yellow and you go to green. You can't get much better than that. I mean, how fun is that? So there's a natural tension that shows up, and there's a sense of challenge that shows up. A vision comes out of that new challenge, and an implementation shows up next. Okay? That's called leveraging our thinking. Yes?
Something happened. What was the step? Something happens, a vision comes out of something.
Oh, yeah.
What did you say?
Well, I summarized something. What I did is that there's a tension that shows up. And then through that tension, a sense of appreciation then can be generated from that tension. A sense of appreciation can be generated from that tension. That this person is bringing something that I'm not seeing fully. Okay? Thinking. Be ready for the 4 questions. Be ready for what, how, who, or why. These are listed at the bottom of the color cards. The quickest way that I'm able to check somebody's preferences is by the question that they ask me. Are they asking me a red question? Are they asking me a blue question? Is it a green question? Well, if it's a green question, it says, how do we do this? First thing out of my mouth is going to be step 1, step 2, step 3. If they ask me a how question, they're telling me what they want to hear. They don't want to know who's going to be there. They want to know what the steps are. So far, so good? All right. That's a thinking slide. I don't have time for that. So what we're interested in is breaking the walls down a little bit. Now, what I'd like to do now for the time I have left, I don't know how much time I have left. What time is it? What time do you have? 1:35. 1:35. Oh, great. I got a nice 10 minutes to wrap this thing up. Okay. is I'm going to spend some time on behavior. Because I've spent a bunch of time on thinking. Spent most of the time on thinking. So now I'm going to spend some time on behavior. And what I'd like for you to do is to consider this word, the word no. And I'm going to ask you to reframe what the word no means. I would like, and I'm requesting that you reframe the word no as to hear no differently, as I would like for you to hear it as, I'm going to choose to do something different, instead of, I'm not doing that. If you replace the word no with the word choice, communication between you and your kid will go much better. If you start hearing their no's as choice, things will go better. Aiden, that's my son that's 5. Aiden, would you be willing to go to the grocery store with me? No, I don't want to. Looks like a pretty good fight coming, huh? Right? Looks pretty good. If I'm hearing no regarding choice, I'm going to hear him differently. Wow, Aiden, I hear that you're telling me no. And you really want to choose to do something differently, isn't that right? Yeah. I have a yes now out of his mouth where there once was a no. Things are going better for me. You really want to choose to stay home, right? Yeah. You really like it at home, don't you? Yeah. Dinosaurs. So you really want to choose to play with dinosaurs instead of coming to the grocery store with me. Yeah, he says. Well, I could see how important it is for you to play here and play with your dinosaurs. And I was wondering, would you be willing to bring some of your dinosaurs along while we go to the grocery store together? Yeah. He's in the car. By finding out what the kid's need was first and talking to the need, he then could see that I was interested in him and his well-being. He knew that he got choice, and now he could see a different perspective. Now he gets his need for choice met and his need for play met with the dinosaur and his need for connection met with his dad, instead of me dragging him into the car. And you parents have known how this one went. Get your ass in the car. Okay, that'll tend not to work as well as what I just went through. Because when you do get them in the car, they have now submitted. And wherever someone submits as a human being, there's always going to be a rebel on the back end. As soon as I'm taking his choice away, as soon as I'm pushing him down, and even if he's calmed down, as soon as I'm going down, and he says, I want some of these Cheetos, and he pulls that off the thing. I say, oh no, you can't have that. What do you get? You get the firestorm. Everything that you made him do, he lets you have it in the grocery store. Okay, because that's called the cycle of submitting and rebelling that we're going to try to stay after. This goes into the feud thing, the power struggle we were talking about, and we're going right there real quick. Is how do we get off of the power struggle is inherently finding out what need inside the person is being met, and then it would be saying, hey, listen, would you be willing to hear what's going on inside me? What's going on inside me, I think that I could get your need for connection with the dinosaurs met at the same time as my need for shopping and buying us food for the house. See, now both of us are allies, we're not adversaries. Okay. Our language has been changing. Our language has been changing over the last 8,000 to 10,000 years. As human beings change from hunter-gatherers to agricultural societies, we had to make some fundamental shift in language. We had to create a belief called my land and your land, my crops and not your crops, my village and not your village, my house and not your house. As soon as we shifted, our language had to include this duality. And for the last 8,000 to 10,000 years, we've amped that up regarding a characteristic of the language regarding judgment, criticism, evaluation, blame, shame. All those are inside that category. So our language has changed. So now how do we revert to an earlier language that we're compassionate to each other? Okay? This is the process that we're going to do is we need to change a belief first. And the first belief I'd like to change here is, everybody repeat after me. You ready? There's no such thing as a good or bad feeling. There's no such thing as a positive or negative feeling. All right, time for a new belief. My new belief is, you ready? Feelings are only indicators. Everybody? Telling me that a need of mine is not being met in the environment. All right, time to make a change. Now, one of the things that we've learned through neuropeptide science and physiology is we've learned that these feelings are really indicators. There is a chemical neuropeptide supporting each feeling that we experience inside our body. It tells us about the environment. So all of a sudden, if somebody cuts us off in the car, we might feel scared. Why do we feel scared? We feel scared because we have a need for safety. That's why we feel scared. But if our need for safety is being met, in other words, the car was far enough away, we might feel irritated. Why do we feel irritated? Because our need for consideration hasn't been met. See how that changed? So the need changed, therefore the feeling changed. So what I'd like for us to do is that when your kid and when your partner is experiencing a feeling, I'd like for you to treat it more like an oil light. If you treat it more like an oil light, things will tend to go better. Does talking to an oil light work in a car? No. One of the biggest problems with modern therapy. Talking to an oil light doesn't work as well as finding out what the cause is behind it. If you find the cause, the feeling will go away almost instantaneously. It's a little spooky because I've been in some pretty hairy mediations with 40 to 60 people in the room, people screaming at each other. And all I do is remember that I'm watching the oil light over there, and I'm trying to find out what the need is over here. And by doing that, by staying in the process, things tend to go better. All right, people push our buttons. Our kids are going to push our buttons. So we need a way to talk about these things in a more powerful way. So what I'd like for you to do now is I hand out this next sheet of mine. I'm going to hand out to you the buttons. Take one and pass it. Stimulus. Something is going to happen. The car cuts us off. Our button gets pushed. We don't know what to say because we haven't been trained to speak this way. A feeling shows up, and all of a sudden we create a belief called, I feel irritated because they. Instead of, I feel irritated because I need consideration. So far, so good? Yeah. I feel irritated because I need for consideration. I have a need for consideration. With our kids, it'll work like this. I'll give you an example. How much time I got left? Do I have a minute or two? 2 minutes? Great. Okay. Let me do it this way. Let me kind of end this with a story, and if anybody wants to talk, I'll talk a little bit outside the room because I know they're going to reset this room. I was inside the house, and I heard my son Aiden crying out in the backyard. Okay? Now, this is the thing. I hear the stimulus, the crying boy. But with this model, what I'm interested in doing is taking a very strong guess to make sure I know where the crying is coming from. Here's my first guess. You ready? I'm standing at the back door. My son's at some distance. Aiden, are you feeling hurt because you really need some comfort right now? I'm looking. It looks like his knee's scraped. I think I'm pretty good with this guess. Watch what I guess next. Are you feeling hurt and you need some comfort? Here's what he says next to me. No, mad. I have no idea what's going on right now. So I better be connected to this. Aiden, I really hear that you're feeling mad right now. Did something happen out here? We have a dog, Chewbacca. Chewbacca knocked me down. So you're really kind of feeling mad, and you really need some consideration. You really need some consideration that, that you're a small person, and you want Chewbacca to play differently. Is that right? Yeah. Chewbacca, come over here. Chewbacca, he needs some consideration. He needs you to play differently. Would you be willing to do that? Now, somehow, my kid got that. And the dog got it. Because the dog takes 2 steps forward and licks the kid right on the knee. And I think to myself, I got a great story for lectures. All right. Think of it this way. If we try to fix things first, things won't go so well. If we try to empathize with the pain that our kid is experiencing, things will tend to go better. You want more information about nonviolent communication, because that's what I'm starting to teach you right now. You can get it at the website called cnvc.org, or you can call me on the phone and I'll give you as much information about this. It will make parenting the easiest thing that you've ever done if you learn how to speak just a little differently. cnvc.org. V as in victory. All right, last part of the story. 1 second. If we fix the knee, there'll be a miss, a disconnect. But by empathy, what happens is the kid moves to closure and says, do you need any more help? He goes, no, come on, Chewbacca, let's go play. And they go off. I want to thank you for your time and participation today, and talk to you further. Thanks.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sorry, we just had like Louise coming in. We gotta
Of
bring
course,
in
it's very
chairs
important.
and-
Very important stuff going
No,
on here.
no, this is very important stuff. Teaching people how to deal with their children. It's a huge room change that I wasn't counting on.